Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Two Shores, One Story. I'm your host, Matthew, and today I have a special guest. We go way back. And by way back, I mean we've known each other for about a week. Which is kind of crazy. But I saw him, and I knew I wanted him on the podcast. So, without further ado, can you introduce yourself?
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Caleb. If you can't tell by my voice, I'm obviously not American or Canadian. I'm from New Zealand. And
Ooh.
it is not a state in America. It's that little island off of Australia. So yeah, I'm honored to be a guest on Matthew's show, and um, I don't know if we're going to go into too much detail about it, but basically we met at this kind of business trip. Teaching and learning Japanese was the objective, and yeah, we just have similar interests, and he doesn't live too far away from me, so yeah, I'm just really happy to be here, and I'm excited to hear these cool questions that you've prepared. So yeah, I don't know how else I can introduce myself. I guess I'm 25. I've lived in Japan for about 3.5 years now. I've studied Japanese for about 5 years, and I just love languages. I love learning new things, and I love meeting new people.
Great. That was fantastic. Yes. Um, I do talk about the training
Mm.
in a prior episode, episode 24.
Oh,
So if you are curious about the training, what happened, I give a very detailed listing of what happened. And I did tell them how I met this one person who had the same friend as me.
mm.
So that was super cool because we share a mutual friend who I used to live with way back, and I guess this August will be 8 years
Mm.
ago that I've known this person. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. So I think it's a small world. I think
Hmm.
often in life, for example, you meet someone, and then like a month later, you just see them randomly at a train station. I'm always surprised to see how small the world is. But also, it's such an amazing thing because it means we're all connected, whether it's through a friend of a friend or some like passion you both have or some cosmic coincidence.
Hmm.
I'm always happy to meet a friend of a friend. And yeah, so can I say the friend's name? I'm sure he won't mind.
I don't think I'll
We
mind
call him
either.
yeah. So Cameron, this guy, this bloke from England. He's actually a mutual friend of ours, and I've he was probably my closest friend in Japan. Unfortunately, he's moved back to England, but
Hmm.
we'd catch up every month or two, just go for a drink or go out have some lunch. And he's a really like intelligent, sporty kind of guy. Cameron loves filming, and he's always been deeply interested in uh, like learning and the art and crafts of filming and documentaries. So that's what he's doing right now, by the way, in case you didn't know, he's studying filming
Woohoo!
in England. Go Cameron. I hope you're listening to. I love you, Cameron. You're the
I
man.
love you too.
He's definitely not going to listen, but I'll let him know.
Yeah, hi Cameron. I haven't said hi to him in like a while, so that would be awkward if this is the first time I said hi. If
He's
you're
such a
listening to this, we can don't hesitate to contact me. But yeah, um, with Instagram and I guess the rise of social media, it's it's pretty easy to see to have mutuals or to
mm,
see that you have mutuals. But sometimes they're or most times they're not really significant, I think.
mm,
But the first day we met, like at breakfast, we're just sitting talking, and I was like, "Oh, can I have like your Instagram?" And then I saw it, I was like, "What?" So that was, yeah, really cool.
That is
But
weird. Yeah.
yes, sorry.
So I was gonna say it's quite strange because it's like you were living together at a university and he just happened to be in the same prefecture that I live. I mean, like when you really think about it,
Hmm.
statistically, it's a very unlikely thing to occur. So yeah, that's really
Yes,
cool. That's all I'm going to add to that. That
the
was really cool.
odds were in our favor.
Yes,
Yes. But enough
that's
about
right.
Cameron. I want to know about
Stuff you,
you.
Cameron.
So, you said that you have lived in your prefecture for three and a
Mm.
half years,
Yeah.
and you studied Japanese for 5 years, which
Yes.
means 2 years, you have 2 years of learning Japanese
Mm.
before going to Japan.
Yes.
So, I'm interested in, I want to know what got you into learning Japanese? What was your reason?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of my teachers at my school have asked me the same thing, and I explain a lot in Japanese, but I don't usually explain it in English, so I can
Mm.
go into more detail. So basically, it all began at the start of university. The university in New Zealand called IPU, they offered a 3 week trip to Japan for about 500 New Zealand dollars, which is like, I don't know, like 220 US dollars. Super cheap.
Whoa.
And that was a 3 week, that's the plane included.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to pay for is the food. And initially, I just thought, oh, Japan seems interesting. I'll give it a shot. The original purpose of joining that university was actually to study business. I wanted to make my own online business and just sell a product, just like t-shirts or just anything really. I wanted to learn how to sell things. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, it completely just sent my life into a completely different direction. I've always tried to have an open mind in life, and this is one of the moments where having an open mind was so beneficial in my overall happiness. So, in this 3 week experience, there was I think, about 15 of us in a group, and we went to our sister school in Okayama, which is kind of near Hiroshima, if you know where places in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Okayama for 2 weeks, and then I went to Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and then on the way back to New Zealand, there was a 2 day homestay in Tokyo.
Ooh.
So during that time, yeah, I got to really experience Japan, and it was so much fun. I think the highlight was definitely the food and the kind people, and I really fell in love with the music as well. A lot of people say, "Oh, anime is the thing that got me into Japan," but really the music got me into Japan. I just really love the way Japanese sounds. It's a very poetic sounding language, and every single, I guess, letter has like a vowel on the end of it, so you can rhyme in so many different ways.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I during that trip I studied Japanese for the first time with like Duolingo, and I think I used an app called Memrise,
Mm-hmm.
which makes like mnemonics for each thing that you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I really struggled. Like I only knew arigato and like sayonara at that point. Like I knew nothing about Japanese, and it was kind of painful, like because everybody else studied Japanese for like 2 years at high school. I was the sole person who didn't study, so I was learning hiragana on the bus. Like while we were busing to like the next prefecture for like 6 hours, I was sitting there learning hiragana, and I think I learned
Mm-hmm.
hiragana and katakana in like 3 days. I just really just grinded it every 3 hours or so. I would like write it out and rewrite it. I think I used a website called Tofugu, which is a
Mm-hmm.
famous Japanese
Yep.
learning website, which also uses mnemonics to to help you learn. Anyway, long story short, I learned about 100 words and hiragana, katakana, and at the end of the experience, they said, "Okay, so if you want to join the Japanese class, you've got to take a test. We've got to decide what level you go on to." And there were 5 levels, kind of like the JLPT test. There was like five, four, three, two, and one. And I took the test with 100 words or so that I knew. I didn't even know what kanji was at that point. I only knew about hiragana. So I wrote like taberu and everything with hiragana.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I somehow got put into the level 3 class, which is two above the level 5 class.
Whoa.
And to my complete dismay and shock, I had no idea what the hell the teacher was talking about the whole time. I sat there like a frozen statue and everything just bounced off me. There was like an angry old lady as a teacher and she was like yelling at me like, how come you don't understand what I'm saying? And I was just like, I was in like panic mode. And obviously when you're panicking, you can't learn.
Yeah,
So I was doing so shit. Excuse my language.
it's okay.
I started off, on this trip being the only person that didn't speak Japanese, so people made fun of me. And then
Mm,
when I went to class, it was the same. People made fun of
mm,
me because I didn't speak any Japanese, and they were just laughing. They're like, well, "How do you not know that?" And of course, I don't know that. I've been learning for like 3 weeks at that point. So anyway, basically, my passion and love for Japan slowly declined, and I started to kind of like hate learning
mm,
Japanese. I thought this is such a waste of my time. It's so difficult. And yeah, I wanted to give up, to be honest. I just thought this is such a complete waste. And yeah, I tried my best to study, but I just couldn't learn in the class. So outside of class, in the library, where I often studied for my other, economic or just different classes, I started to just research the question, how to learn a language efficiently. That was like my biggest question. And I went like deep. Had this question for like months, and I just kept finding new ways and resources. And basically, in general, the main method was through a lot of input through various sources from native material. And to get over the ambiguity of the language, you just have to just sit there and just start somewhere, and slowly your brain will adjust, just like a baby learns, right? Like, how do
mm-hmm.
you speak English? You didn't just wake up and someone taught you a graph of all the, logistics of English, all the grammar. You just learned it
Are you
naturally,
sure?
right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't remember when I was a baby. Maybe that did happen. Um, but yeah, like I learned like a baby did basically. I started
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of listening. I watched like GTO, which is like Great Teacher Onizuka, which is like
Ooh. Oh
a
yeah, yeah,
teacher
yeah.
drama. And yeah, I just watched like children's content. I read like children's books in Japanese. And basically that was about 6 months after starting. And my Japanese comprehension just really shot up, honestly. Just went up so quickly. And at the same time, there was like a huge group of about 50 exchange students that came to my university. So not only was there the immersive materials that I got hooked on, there was also the people. So
Mm-hmm.
like meeting people was so much fun, and I really got to like speak to them. Of course, I didn't speak in Japanese. I just spoke in English. I was too afraid to speak Japanese for about a year almost after I started learning. But yeah, I'll get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just learned through a lot of children's books, graded readers, lots of audio, and this guy on YouTube called Benjiro. He's like an Australian guy who interviews Japanese people and teaches really simple, conversational phrases.
Ooh.
So yeah, I basically learned through listening and YouTube and just anything I could get my hands on. And I had so much more fun than I did in class where the teacher was yelling at me for not understanding things. And yeah, I went from getting like, I don't know, like 10 out of 100 in the scores to about, 70. Still, not the best, but within like 3 months, I was about the same level as those, 3 year, those students that studied in high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? And after year one, year two began, and a lot of people dropped out of Japanese because it was just too difficult. But because of the content and everything I was listening to, I got more hooked onto it. And the Japanese friends were like, if I said like a phrase, they would, of course, they'd say, "Well, Nihongo jozu." They'd always say these like, "Oh, you're doing so well. You
Mm-hmm.
speak so well." And I'm a sucker to compliments, so of course it got me motivated. And at the same time, there was this really cute girl that I was really interested in, and she was Japanese. She didn't speak any English, so I was like, this is my chance. But yeah, after about 6 months, another 6 months, so a year and 6 months total, she went back to Japan, and I never actually got to confess my feelings, which is a tragedy. But the good thing is from all that effort, I learned a lot of Japanese and
Yes.
entered in speech competitions. I just tried
Whoa.
everything to just, I think I spent about around like 7 hours a day learning Japanese, like outside of class.
Wow.
So yeah, I was really like just passionate about it. And at first I was
Hmm.
so exhausted. Like when you're learning something new, you don't know how tiring it is because your
Hmm.
brain's just not used to it.
Hmm.
But after hours and hours and days and weeks, I slowly got to the point where I didn't feel like I needed to translate in my head. I was just kind of immersing. That was about a year or so after learning. Should I keep going on? Do you have any other questions or should I continue?
I'm just so amazed. Like, your story is so unique
Mm,
compared to other learners for sure. And I feel like you said
mm,
you mentioned this, like a lot of people who learn Japanese want to learn because they want to watch anime without subtitles or that kind
mm,
of stuff. But you were interested because of the music and you lived there. Like right
mm.
immediately you just like went to Japan, which
Yeah,
it's incredible.
yeah.
And you've done so many things in just your 2 years.
Mm.
Really
Of
amazing.
uni.
Yeah, I can't. It's just so cool. And it's in, I have detected a passion
Mm,
in your story with Japanese. And I feel like
mm,
when you find that thing, it's just so amazing. When I started learning Japanese, it felt like that too. Like I was interested in it, and then it became a huge passion. And I quit playing Xbox, which is like a PlayStation. Um, and I wanted to study.
mm.
Who wants to study? I did. I was so interested in learning Japanese. So, wow.
Can I ask you a question? When did you start learning Japanese?
When did I start learning Japanese? Well, I
Yeah.
do talk about this in my podcast, but I can talk about it
Uh,
again.
just briefly, yeah.
Um, I started at the end of grade 10.
Mm,
So that was May. So May is a very important month for me because of that. I think the reason I wanted to start learning Japanese, I think, was because I was in middle school. I
mm,
took well, I was forced to take, but we had social studies. And
mm,
in social studies, we learned about Renaissance, Aztec culture, and Japan for the Edo to Meiji period. I don't know what the overarching theme was, but anyways, I'm from a small town in Canada, so we didn't have any Japanese people or Japanese culture whatsoever. So I knew
mm,
a little bit. Maybe I knew about Pokemon, but that was about it. I
mm,
didn't know anything. But after that class, I was like, whoa, like Japanese culture is so interesting and these people are so cool for having being closed and isolated from the
mm,
entire world to then
mm,
opening in the Meiji period and doing all these things. I was like, that's so cool. So that kind of got my interest. I guess that was like the seed um, for my Japanese language interest, but it took a while for me to start actually learning Japanese. So
mm,
I think I tried to learn French on Duolingo in
mm.
grade 9, and I quit that because it was difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and then just one day, I was at my piano teacher's house. My sister was taking her lessons, so I just was sitting on the couch, and I just decided that one day I just would I just decided that day. So I just downloaded
Mm.
apps. I downloaded hiragana, katakana apps. I found a textbook, Human Japanese, and I used those.
I use that as well.
You did? No
Yeah,
way.
the
It's
app, the
such a
Human
great
Japanese
textbook.
app. It's so expensive, but yeah.
Well, I didn't have, it was cheaper when I had it,
Oh,
but it did get expensive. But I loved that thing. That was for someone who was like self-studying because I didn't have
yeah.
any Japanese. Like as I said, there was no class. We only had French
Mm,
and German in high school.
mm,
Human Japanese was such a great resource because I could click the words and he had recordings. Thank gosh for
Mm.
recordings.
Oh yeah.
So while other people had troubles with their R's, I was like, I got it. This is easy.
Yeah.
So that's my, I guess, my start of how I learned Japanese or how it happened, my journey.
Mm.
Yeah. 8 year, 10 year, wait, 11 years,
Wow, 11 years.
I think.
And then you went to Japan for university, right?
Yes. So 2 years at the start self-study. 1 year I took two classes, and I think I took a placement test.
Mm.
Um, and my teacher told me that I knew 90% of the content for the first class already,
Wow.
but I was given the choice to stay, and I decided to stay
Mm.
in that class, which was a good idea because my hiragana was bad because I was
Yeah.
writing from the text, so I didn't know that there was you had to like disconnect your stuff. The
Yeah.
key and the he I didn't know, so I was like, huh? Why does this look weird? So I had to fix that, and um yeah. So I took that for 1 year, moved to Japan as a part of an exchange for
Mm.
11 months, met amazing people like Cameron, then came back, took 1 semester, finished the Japanese classes, and then from then I've been self-studying.
Mm.
Yeah. So quite a journey. I'm pretty sure it's 11 years.
Mm. Yeah, high school until now. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
11
It's
years.
very
It's
long.
crazy. Yeah, time flies.
Time flies, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is my journey. And thank you for talking about your journey. It was again so interesting.
Mm.
So I want to know, hmm,
Can I add like another 30 seconds
yes,
to the
please
story?
do.
So basically, yeah, my first year and a half was a lot of, listening input, making Japanese friends and falling in love with Japan more and more.
Hmm.
But funnily enough, those people in the first year that basically bullied me and made me hate Japanese, they actually all dropped out of Japanese class because they
Hmm.
found it too hard. Because
Hmm.
we think at that point we're up to N2 content after about, 2 years or so. And I was like, oh man, this is definitely hard. And by the end of the third year, third year. I think it was kind of weird. There was a year where I didn't take Japanese classes. It was all self-study. But anyway, yeah, the third year, there was only two students in the whole class for Japanese,
Whoa.
me and this Vietnamese girl. And yeah, we just love Japanese, so we kept going hard at it. And I think that same year I passed the N2 test
Whoa.
as well. So I was like, I think 7 hours a day. It makes sense, if you're like really immersing you can learn so much naturally just through exposure. So that I really learned the truth behind, true language learning. It's not just textbooks. You really do need to just interact with the language
Hmm.
and become a big sponge.
Yes.
Mm.
That's amazing. That you passed the N2. That's incredible.
Yeah, I was sure. It was a giddy. It was just a very close pass. Um, so yeah, I wasn't. Uh, yeah, I kind of got a bit. I want to say choshi ni notta. I went. I got a bit cocky, and
Mm.
I thought, oh yeah, my Japanese is so good. I don't need to learn anymore. But then, sure enough, I came to Japan and I realized that I really don't know anything. Like this is just the tip of the iceberg. I can do like basic conversations. I can obviously order things in a restaurant, but people use so much different words to what you learn in the textbook or what you can learn with just like content from Netflix. Like
Hmm.
my first day at a konbini, they said, "Rejibukuro go ryo kudasai," or something like,
Mm.
this is, like, will you use the plastic bag? And up until now, I thought plastic bag was plastic bag. I didn't realize that they say
Yes.
rejibukuro. I'd never heard that word in
Yeah,
my life
yeah,
because I never watched any content that was related to like a combine because you don't see that. It's such
yeah.
a real life thing. You don't really see it in movies. But anyway, I was like, what? I studied for like 3 years and I still don't know this
And two.
damn word. Yeah, and I passed N2. I don't know how to order a freaking like food at a combini. Like I feel so frustrated. But yeah, that was a taste of what true Japan was like.
Wow. For those who don't know what N2 is, um, it's part of the JLPT, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test, and there's five levels, N5 to N1. N2 is the second hardest, so N1 is the hardest. And it's said that if you have your N2, you are able to work at a Japanese company. You have the language for that.
Mm.
We can get into the details of the test, but um, it's just interesting because you can work at a business, but you couldn't order. You
Yeah,
couldn't order. It's like, what? But I had that thing too. When I first got to Japan, I was like, they're like, Fukuro wa irimasu ka? I was like, what are you saying to me? Do you need a bag? And I'm like, what?
yeah. Like Godio de Shoka, you don't like I've never heard that before.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the struggle. But it
When
was
you
mm,
live in a country, when you live in Japan or wherever, if you wherever you're like learning your target language and you go to that country,
mm,
it just your language learning is exponential, I believe, at that
mm,
point. Like I learned so much just because you have to. Like now I know what plastic bag is.
mm. Yeah, I think actually I had a weird effect. Like when I first arrived, of course, I didn't know many like common terms and expressions, especially words related to school and like
Mm-hmm.
roll call is like tenko suru, all these like different like words that you don't really come into contact with. I learned those quite quickly, just naturally. But
Mm-hmm.
then I think I actually reached like a peak when and I was just reusing the same words again and again. You have the same conversations. And in fact, I feel like compared to my 7 hour a day immersive approach, reading, listening, just going hard out and pushing myself, I think I went down. Like I actually started to lose a lot of my knowledge from all the books I read and all the content I was immersing in. And actually, I went really lazy. And for about the first 2 years in Japan, I think my Japanese did not improve or get any worse because when I did like a practice N2 test just for fun, I think I only got slightly more than I did 2 years ago prior when I passed the test. And I was like, how is that possible? But it made sense because I wasn't pushing myself. And I think to get better at something, you do need to push yourself. You can't fall into the trap like, oh, I've got this, it's too easy. You do need to make a bit of a conscious effort. Because at home I was just listening to, American YouTubers or playing games all in English. I wasn't actually immersing. And my job is to speak English at school and ALT.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I was speaking English at work as well. So when you think about it, I was immersing like 20, 30 minutes a day compared to 6, 7 hours in New Zealand. So it's only natural.
Wow, that's like really interesting
Mm.
and not really something I've heard about that people feel that they've lost their Japanese knowledge.
Especially in Japan.
In Japan, especially, it's really interesting.
Mm.
So, what are you doing now to
Mm.
overcome that challenge?
So yeah, this is I've pressed the reset button and I'm doing what I basically did in New Zealand, except I think I've become a lot more efficient and I can find material that's a lot more interesting for me as my Japanese has improved a lot. I can actually, you know, finally read books. Like before, up until now, up until about, I'd say 6 months ago, I was solely just watching anime or watching TV series on Netflix, and that was my sole source of input.
Hmm.
But recently, I've gotten into reading, but not just reading children's books, like actual novels. Um, The first, well, I guess, novel that started it off is a book called Colorful, and that's a light novel, which is, I guess it's like teenage fiction, is what you'd call it in English. Kind of books that are aimed at, I guess, junior high schoolers, so 10 years to like maybe like 14, 15. Just basically young people. It's kind of books aimed at them. So that the language is slightly easier than like a mystery novel for adults, but it still uses quite complex grammar forms and, sentence patterns and vocabulary. So yeah, I about 6 months ago I said, all right, I need to study for this N1 test, which is the highest Japanese
Mm-hmm.
proficiency level. And the test uses a lot of difficult words that are related to like so many different fields, like science, like biology, chemistry, just these random fields that you don't really you don't really know how to talk about unless you really immerse in such like a wide variety of different
Mm-hmm.
sources.
Mm-hmm.
So to combat that issue, I started reading books like light novels, which was the perfect level for me because maybe I understood like 95%, which sounds like a lot, but that means like every page there's like 5 words you don't know, which is really tough and really slow. So what I do is I go to the book online, so I'd read the book and I'd hover my mouse over an unknown word, and a pop-up dictionary would come up with the definition in the monolingual in Japanese, and then also below that in the bilingual English. And I would, try and figure out what they're trying to say first. If I can't figure it out, I would use this pop-up dictionary. I would look up the word, and then I'd make a flashcard of that word. So I think on average, I'm doing about 10 new words a day. So I look up a word, make a flashcard, add it to the flashcard app called Anki. And then every morning I review those Anki words. So it's like I'm reading a mini story in the morning, basically. I see all the sentences that I didn't know, and I'm like, oh, what was that word? There's just one word in the sentence that I don't know, and I like to bold it out so it's clear what it is. And then on the back of the card is the definition. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I just did that for like I've been doing that for about 6 months now, and I've not just focused on light novels. I've finally moved to actual novels now, like mystery novels. I just finished a book today, actually, called Confessions, about I guess it's like a murder mystery thriller kind of story. It's
Ooh.
really good. The teacher's daughter gets murdered, and then it's about her
No.
revenge. It's her revenge
Ooh.
story, and I love revenge stories. It's so good. It's probably the best book I've read so far. But anyway, besides reading books, um, I've been reading things called visual novels, which maybe you've heard, maybe not. I didn't know about this even after studying Japanese for about 3 or 4 years. But basically, it's like a video game, except there's a lot more text in the video game. Like a character pops up on the screen, and then at the bottom of the screen, there's usually like a text box, and the character's saying things or the story is progressing. And sometimes there's audio as well. Sometimes they have like a voice actor
Mm.
to voice act out the scenes. So it's a good combination. If you get kind of tired of reading, you can listen to the language as well as read it. It's a good like balance, I feel.
Hmm.
And I'm able to like read those for like 2 or 3 hours at a time versus just reading by itself, which is quite draining, which I can probably max out at about 2 hours before I get really tired. Um, but yeah, so I've been using a combination of visual novels and light novels, books. And of those visual novels, my top maybe two. One is a novel called Higurashi. Have you heard of it before?
I've
Higurashi.
never heard of it.
So Higurashi is basically, once again, it's like a murder mystery thriller. This guy, he goes to this village in Japan. It's called Shirakawa. That's where it's based, and in the prefecture of Gifu, as you know. And it's basically about him just going to school, attending its normal, and then suddenly someone gets killed at this festival, and he finds out who got killed, and then he gets I can't go into too much detail, but basically there's like spirits and it possesses people and it's a very dark mystery and every single episode it resets basically. It's kind of like in a loop, and you have to figure out why are they killing each other? What is the mystery? And it goes very deep. It's a really well written book. That's
Mm.
number one. And my
Hmm.
second visual novel that I'm enjoying is Steins Gate. Have you heard of it
I
before?
have heard of that one.
Yeah, it's like a time travel mystery one, and that uses a lot of difficult vocabulary, which is great for this test I'm doing. I come to contact with a lot of grammar that, isn't quite common in just normal conversation. So yeah, those are the two main methods, as well as a bit of YouTube, just watching, you know, explanation videos on YouTube. Those are my three sources of input to help improve my Japanese. But I think the main thing that's really improving it is making these flashcards because I'm actually pushing myself. I'm improving, and for the first time in like 2 years since arriving in Japan, I finally feel like I'm improving, and I can see that I'm improving because I understand a lot more of difficult content that I prior to when I didn't study books, I didn't understand. Like an example is maybe even right now watching Dragon Ball Z, you'd think it's just simple vocabulary, but out of the blue, there's a really difficult word. And I always notice, oh, I learned that word like yesterday or 2 days ago. These things that you really study and you really learn, they pop up and you notice that. And it's like you teach your brain to notice these words and it helps reinforce the word even more. So,
Hmm.
yeah, those are the three main methods I've been using to further improve my Japanese. Um, so yeah, I think anyone who's learning a language, whether it's Japanese or French or even English, I think if you want to improve, just immerse with things that you really enjoy and push yourself. Don't get cocky. Don't stay on the same level. That's my piece of advice, as well as I mean, not to toot my horn, but I studied language acquisition at my university, and I read about 10 different books related to the field, as well as doing research, primary research,
Hmm.
interviewing people, and gathering their opinions and thoughts. So I've thought about this for a long time, and
Hmm.
yeah, I definitely think doing something that you love, and especially reading and having a lot of input from various different sources is definitely the best way. Just really have fun and you'll learn it.
Hmm.
That's my how I've been combating the challenges.
Yeah, that's, I think that's a good way to put it is find something that you like. That's the first thing. It should be the base. If you don't
Yeah,
like it,
definitely.
don't do it.
Exactly. Yeah, just there's a million different ways to learn. Just smack it out of the way.
If you don't like learning from a textbook, don't. If you like learning from a textbook, go ahead.
Exactly.
So those are great things. I'm wondering, um, what YouTube channels are you looking at or watching right now?
Mm. A lot of the names are like two sentences long, but I
Oh.
can yeah, I don't know why, but Japanese YouTubers they tend to have this um, funny thing where they never have a simple title of their video or of their username. It's always some like weird joke or like a
Mm.
sentence long. But let me see if I can pull up some of the channels I've been watching recently. Um, there's a guy called Yuto no Channel, Yuto channel. He actually talks about language learning in Japanese, about his experience learning English. So he talks about the same
Ooh.
methods that I did, which is so interesting. He talks about language acquisition theory, and I can type these out afterwards if you want. But yeah, it's Yuto no Channel.
Hmm.
That's one. Another one I've been watching recently. Oh, I watched this ages ago. It's called Fermi Kenkyujo or Fermi Lab. Basically, she reads a book and she summarizes it using like kind of manga settings. So she puts on a voice of like a guy and a girl, and she talks about what she learned from the book and what you can what you can use from the book to
Mm.
apply in your own life. So it's kind
Ooh.
of one of those like motivation kind of channels, self-development
Cool.
and reading. It's so good, and there's a lot of difficult words. So yeah, I like it. And then the last channel I'd love to mention is, mm, well, there's two actually. One is probably Jaru Jaru Tawa. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
It's probably the most famous manzai group. So there's two people that kind of just act out funny scenes, just real life,
Mm.
silly things. They're from Osaka, and yeah, they're just quite funny at doing that. And oh man, I don't even know how to read this one. I think it's Konin Kirinuki. Kanae Sensei is the name, and there's another long thing, but he's a
Mm.
VTuber, so he's like
Ooh.
some, guy who plays as a character in the YouTube. But basically, he's basically a criminologist. He's like a full-time criminologist. That's his job, but for part-time, he does this YouTube channel, and he's studied psychology as well as criminology, as well as like the growth of young people, as well as like he goes in deep into about arguments and human relationships. So basically, people post questions. Maybe people have like a long story. For example, there was a story recently where a woman who gave birth just had a baby, and the husband like doesn't want to take responsibility or look after the baby. He just
Ooh.
plays video games, and she wants to know, how can I deal with this? How can, instead of yelling at him, how can I like get him to move his ass and be more responsible? And he talks about how you can do that, what psychological ways you can say it, instead of saying do this, do that, you say, oh, what would you prefer to do, this or this? And if you do it, I think it'll make me so much happier. You kind of rephrase different things, and yeah, I really love his
Wow.
channel, and it's really difficult and it's really fun. And I want to ask you the same question. What have you been watching on YouTube for your Japanese
For
content,
Japanese,
if you have any?
I don't have any like recent ones. Well, maybe that's not true. After we met, I
Hmm.
Caleb showed me an app
Hmm.
called Dokusho
Ah.
Reader.
Hmm.
Um, and also, well, we'll talk about it later, but reading, I kind of needed to get my butt in gear as well because I'm also taking the N1. So I
Hmm.
was like, I need to read too. So, anyways, I found a series or a channel that she just goes over book
Hmm.
recommendations. So,
Hmm.
I watched one of her videos and was like the top 10 books from that were ranked in 2024 for this app. And
Hmm.
I didn't explain what Dokusho Reader is, but it's basically like Goodreads. Like you can um, show what books you're reading, what books you've read, what books you want to read, and there's some um, reviews of the books,
Hmm.
and you can add people. So I've added Caleb so I can see what he's reading, and that's
Hmm.
helpful. Um, that's it doesn't have any you can't track the progress yet, but not like Goodreads, but it's still a good app. Anyways,
Hmm.
um, prior to that, I don't have any like specific Japanese channels that I watch every day, and I want to change that, so I might have to look at those ones that you suggested. One
Hmm.
though that you might be interested in, and it's technically a podcast, but it's also a YouTube channel. Like they have a YouTube
Hmm.
videos that they do, but it's also on Instagram podcasts and maybe
Hmm.
Spotify, but they're called Yuru Gengo Gaku Show.
Ah, I listened to them before, yeah.
Mm. Yes, so it's like
The,
one
hmm.
linguist who actually I think went to my school. Well, maybe not. I know he lived in Nagoya.
Hmm.
He's from Nagoya
Hmm.
and he's a linguist. The second guy is not a linguist. Maybe computer science. I don't know. But he
Hmm.
doesn't, anyways, he doesn't know anything about linguistics. So they
Hmm.
have many conversations about language stuff, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but he like explains it through his own perspective, and it's really interesting.
Hmm.
And it does talk about anything and everything related to linguistics. So I did really like that, although it was a bit difficult because lots of stuff I
Hmm.
I didn't understand. Mhm.
Mm,
Nice. So if you are interested in YouTube, those are some choices that you can watch.
mm,
Um, for beginners, maybe not. I mean, you could try.
mm.
Um, I would go, well, what's easier than that? I don't know.
Um, Maybe there's one called Yu Yu no Nihongo Podcast, that's his name. He's a guy who lives in Mexico and he's a Japanese teacher in Mexico. And
Oh,
he just talks about his daily life, what's life like in Mexico. And it's a good level, I think, for beginners. He speaks quite
okay.
slow, and if there's a word you don't know, often he explains it in Spanish, unfortunately. But if you know some Spanish, it's okay. But it's not too difficult. And he's got his own YouTube channel,
Ooh.
which is good. I also listen to Japanese podcasts as well. My one I've listened to is called Koten Radio. It's a history one, so they talk about historical figures. Like they talked about Alexander the Great, like his life, what he
Oh.
did, where he's from, the year it happened. One of my top, these are the top three people they've talked about so far. Right now, they're talking about Helen Keller, which is really interesting. She was the lady born who can't see or hear. So they talk
Hmm.
about how did she even learn to like write, or how did she learn to like figure out what the world is? Like she didn't even know how to say anything, and all she can do is touch things, right? So how can
Hmm.
you just touch things and learn? And at that time, there was no Braille as well, so they
Hmm.
revolutionized Braille and how to
Hmm.
learn new words through like touching something. Like you touch water, and then you put your finger on the Braille for water. There's all these really interesting things you learn from through
Wow.
from these historical figures. Even the story about Hitler was really dark as well. They just go into all these different areas throughout history, and it's so damn interesting. And if you know a lot of Japanese, that's something
Hmm.
that you can
Look
enjoy.
forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
Mm.
based on this conversation, you can use any format to learn language,
Yeah.
and you can find anything that interests you. So, um, it might be daunting at first if you're a beginner, but you can find something that interests you for sure and just start learning. When
Mm.
I started learning Japanese, I didn't use podcasts. I I liked music, so I searched J-pop. I remember
Mm.
vividly, I just searched J-pop on YouTube, and the first video that showed up was Kyaru Pamyu Pamyu,
Haha, yeah,
Pon
I know.
Pon, and I watched that and it terrified me. So
Yeah.
I quit that. That was very terrifying. I was like, what is this? But a few videos down, I found like a group that was called Morning Musume, and
Mm.
they um, made this. It was Sakura Mankai, and that was the
Mm.
first song that I listened to. That was like, wow, this is super good. So
Mm.
that like fueled my interest for Japanese music, and I just love music. I
Mm.
also didn't listen to. I did watch YouTube. I also watched anime, but for YouTube, I don't think I listened to any channels that were specifically Japanese, but maybe
Mm.
it was an English speaker who used some Japanese or the other way. So
Mm.
I learned a lot about culture, which helped me with my motivation. Maybe not my language learning per se. I maybe learned a little bit, but for motivation, you get that interest like, wow, Japan's so cool. They're talking about this. That's really cool. I can't wait to go to Japan. So
Mm.
there's many opportunities for you, a beginner, or wherever you're at in your language journey to either learn Japanese or maybe be motivated.
Mm.
You can do
Yeah,
it.
exactly. You can do it.
You can do it. Now, I asked you about your top three YouTube channels, but you were talking about reading, and I also
Mm.
want to know what are your top three books?
Oh, this is a hard one. Hang on, I'll pull up my app that I have of my books that I've read so far, just so I don't miss anything. But from the top of my head, the most recent one I read was called Kokuhaku,
Hmm.
which means confessions, by Minato Kanae. And she's like one of the she's won so many bestseller awards for like, the best book of the year award. She won that I think like two or three times. So she's really good at writing. She goes into she goes deep into detail about like pain and like for example the teacher, her daughter got murdered, and it talks about how she felt about how that happened and what are the repercussions of it. How does it affect other people? It kind of they go deep into like all that those connections. That's probably maybe number two or number one. Haven't decided yet. Another book I loved is called Mikakan no Kofuku. Um,
Hmm.
that is a good book. In English, 3 Days of Happiness. That's about a guy. I mean, I can talk about the first like 3 pages, but this 20-year-old hates his life. He's got no passion, and he decides to sell his lifespan for money. And he sells basically all of his lifespan except for like 3 months of his life. And it talks about his life and what he does in those 3 months. That's one of my other favorite books. Apart from that, I think the first book that I really understood, because when I first read, I didn't understand much. Like I got the gist of it, but I didn't feel like I was going deep into the story. But the first book that I really like understood was Kimi no Nawa. I guess maybe you've heard of the movie,
Hmm.
Your Name in English. The movie's really good, but the book is even better. The book is insane. It goes really deep into like the soul and connections and cosmic coincidences and how we're all connected through this weird like I don't know nature thing. I'm terrible at describing things, but yeah, it goes really deep into many parts of human nature and the soul, and it's definitely worth a read. I think if you're a beginner, Kimi no Nawa is such a good starting point. It has quite simple sentence patterns and kind of like an easy to follow kind of high school based story. That was probably one of my favorites. So yeah, to repeat, Kokuhaku is maybe number one. Number two is Mikakan no Kofuku, and number three is Kimi no Nawa. Those are my top three. But there's a lot of contenders as well. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Well,
how about you? Do you have a top three books?
do I have top three?
Or have you read three books? I don't
I
know.
have read more than three books.
Yeah.
Um, mm, so, hmm, my first book that I really loved, is called Chotto Ima Kara Shigoto Yamete Kuru. And we've talked about this book. I told you about
Mm,
it.
mm,
Basically, it's like I'm going to quit my job now,
mm,
is the English equivalent of the title. And this book, basically the premise is like there's a person, he's working at a company, it's not the best company, lots of overtime, not great uh relations with higher ups,
mm,
and he's not having a great time. Let's just
mm,
say that. Um, but someone comes into his life and it gets better. That's all I'm
mm,
gonna say. Um, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon this book, but I found it on Amazon and I bought it,
mm,
and I loved that book. Super good. And it was easy to understand, even though it was fantasy. It was
mm,
like real, based on real life.
mm,
Like I understood, even though I didn't work at a company at that time, I understood what was going on. Even if I didn't know
mm,
every word, I was like, yeah, I get this.
mm,
Um, so I realized then that I really liked Japanese books that were based on real life or
mm.
had like societal problems. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's my top one. I think I really like that book and I suggest everyone to read it. And there's a movie.
There's a
There's
movie.
a movie.
Oh, wow,
I
I
did
didn't know
watch it
that.
after. It was great. So I I do suggest if you can find a book that has a movie, do it because then you have motivation to
Ah,
read the
mm,
book as a little
true.
treat. So
Yeah.
that was good. My second favorite book, hmm, is actually a recent book,
Mm,
and it's a part of a series. So it's called Nakuna Kenshui. So the first book is it's in English, Don't Cry, Research Doctor.
mm,
So I started that. I think I talked about this in the podcast before, but I started that this year. I think this January.
mm,
I was watching Dr. X on Netflix. Yes,
mm.
that one. He's showing me the
Ah,
he's showing me.
yeah, the book.
Um yeah, Netflix. So I watched Dr. X on Netflix in December and I just really fell in love with that story. And
Mm.
I never thought I would be interested in hospital stuff, but I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. Like, I love her so much. So that happened, and then I was talking with a friend. I was like, yeah, I got these books, but they weren't like that exciting. They were like business Japanese and maybe how to get better at communication, but nothing like super
Mm.
exciting. And he said like, oh, you should maybe like find books that you like really are interested in. So
Yeah.
I like these books, but um I needed something more maybe. So I was like, yeah, maybe I'll consider it. And I did because I went to the bookstore just looking for books. And I was looking for a book, but I couldn't find it. But then I turned around and there was this huge, like, what's it called? Display of
Mm.
this series, the Nakuna Kenshui series. So I was like, oh, look at this. So I looked at it and it looked really interesting. And I was like, I don't really like know anything about hospital. I learned a little bit with Dr. X and I did some research on hospital terms because I was interested in Dr. X.
Mm.
But I was like, give this a try. And I read the first book and I finished it and it was really good. And I
Mm.
just finished the second book. 2 days ago I finished.
Wow.
And it's gotten better, which is actually rare for a sequel. Now,
Yeah.
this book has like there's 5 more books that I get to read. I have to take a break though, because
Mm.
I think I need to read other books to prepare for the N1. I
Mm.
just can't delve
Yeah.
into medical, even though I want to. I'm
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little treat, which is weird. Like I'm saving this book as a treat. I get to read the third doctor book,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so good. My third book, I don't know. What's my third favorite book? I have to look at my Dokujo meter
Mm.
too, because there's one book that I'm thinking of, but I like don't know if that's my favorite, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like really the only book that yeah, I guess it would be my third. The third book that I like is called Konbini Ningen,
Ah, yes.
which is, I think a lot of people read it. But
Mm.
basically it's another book that has societal problems, there's a girl, older woman, she's working at a convenience store, but the world is saying that you should be married or she should be married. She should not work at a
Mm.
convenience, blah, blah, blah. She should be a homemaker,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But, she struggles with those stereotypes maybe, or those things that the world is telling
Mm.
her. But she's like, really
Mm.
likes the conveni. And she's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have a similar taste. We like to hear about these like not societal problems, but like human stories based in real life,
Hmm.
not just fantasy. Like I tried reading Harry Potter. I read like t 3 books and I just couldn't get through it because obviously I've seen the movie so many times. Like I just wasn't interested, so I dropped it. I recommend everyone do that. If you don't like it, just drop it. Don't force yourself to do something you don't like. Do what you love. And I forgot to mention, I started a new book today. Um, I was gonna reveal this,
Okay.
but the book in English is The Courage to Be Disliked, I think is the title in English. In Japanese, it's Kirawareru Yuki. Um,
Ooh.
it's like one of the most famous like self-help books, I think. I think that's, hang on, let me just double check the title. Yeah, The Courage to Be Disliked. Um, Written by two people, Fumitage Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. So basically, um, this book is really is it's basically a collection of famous philosophers like Aristotle's and all these other famous philosophers. And the story begins with a young guy going to this sage, like this wise guy, and basically just they have a conversation. The whole book seems to be just two people talking to each other the whole time.
Hmm.
And he says like, what is the answer to happiness? What is the secret to happiness? And the wise sage says, life is very simple and very easy. And then the young guy says, that's not true. That's ridiculous. So basically, whatever the sage says, the main character disagrees, and you're like the main character basically. And you're like, no, that's not true. You're always trying to find a
Mm.
way, an
Hmm.
excuse, or, say something to disagree with the sage. And it's such an interesting book. I've only read a tiny bit of it, but I'm loving it so much. And it uses like difficult words as well. I think it's more non-fiction than fiction, to be honest, the
Hmm.
way it's written, using philosophers' ideas and thoughts and condensing it into like understandable packages. It's,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
it's,
really
I,
interesting.
give it a read.
I'm gonna add that to my list.
Yeah, especially for N1 practice, I think it's good. I've already seen like 10 grammar rules that I haven't seen so far in any other book I've read, and I've read like 15 books. So, yeah, it's
Hmm.
I paid money for it as yeah. I always
Got
pay money for
it.
my books. Yeah, it was worth it.
Ooh.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation. We have 4 minutes left, so
4 minutes left. Yes, we're on Zoom right now and it's telling us we have four
hmm.
minutes. So, with that, quick fire, I hope quick fire
Yes.
questions. First,
Yep.
what is your favorite Japanese word?
Or onegaishimasu. It
Are you,
means
really? Really?
yep.
Oh.
Because it doesn't exist in English.
Okay, we have different perspectives. Go on though.
Yeah, so it means like I look forward to working with you, it kind of
Mm.
represents Japanese culture. Even kids, everyone says onegaishimasu,
Hmm.
it's like I'll do my best. I look forward to working with you. I'm sure there's another fancy word, but I can't think of anything now.
Right. Yeah, onegaishimasu can mean please.
Mm,
Onegaishimasu, but it can also it's a really like um good word,
deep.
very
Mm,
useful and different.
yeah.
There's a lot of words in Japanese that you can use in different situations, and onegaishimasu is one. That was really good. Good answer. I just was surprised because my favorite word is like stupid. It's just kokai gichido, which is like the national diet building. I learned that word and during my exchange I was like, this is so funny. So we have different
Yeah, I got lots of meme words, but
oh gosh.
yeah.
Kokai gichido. Sounds great. Also,
Okay.
I remember learning Jido Hanbaiki and I was like, this is a fantastic.
Jihanki. Yeah.
Yeah, Jihanki. I learned that I didn't know that was an abbreviation until the training. Someone said that's like
Oh, really?
Jihanki.
Ah,
Really cool. So you learn every day, guys.
yeah.
Um, Second quick fire question. What is your favorite kanji?
Mm. Um, that's a difficult question. I could pull up my kanji list, but that'll take too long. Um, Probably just mm, I like the kanji sugureru,
Ooh, yasashi.
which means like yeah, yasashi. It's like kindness.
Mm,
I don't know, it just looks cool. I just like kanji that has a lot of strokes, that are difficult. They have like a deep meaning, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess maybe sugureru or what's another cool kanji? Maybe I made my own name in kanji, karebu, which means like splendid, beautiful warrior is like
Wow.
is how you translate it. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, kire no re, and then bu is bushi no bu, warrior.
Ah. Ooh.
Yeah, I'll send it to you
Nice.
later.
My kanji name is True Learning.
True learning.
Yes.
Hang on, let me
Ma
try.
Shinjitsu no Shin,
Shin.
which is also Majime
Ah,
no Ma,
yeah.
and
Ah,
Renshu no Shu,
that's cool. Yeah,
Mashu.
that's
Yes.
a cool one.
I think it fits. It fit pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, Great. Well, I think we had a lovely conversation on
Mm.
learning Japanese, and I hope just Caleb is so inspirational, even for me. We could talk for hours about how he's improved my Japanese learning already. And I hope that you learners have maybe something that you can use in your own learning. So
Mm.
with that, thank you so much again for coming, and we will I'll see you later.
See you later. Thank you so much for having me. Take care.